welcome, listeners. Thank you so much for taking the time out and joining us today here on Bulland, Awaaz and on The Rational. We have been covering ongoing issues that have been happening down in Gaza, and today we have been broadcasting mostly electronic intifada's coverage of it. However, today we are joined on the phone with a few folks who have taken the time out to give us some more context and discussion around as to what's going on. So let me just let you know what we're going to be talking about today, or who we're going to be speaking with. Later on, we will be joined with Reem Sharur and Rabbi David Merviser to discuss sales of land thefts that are happening, the opportunities of sales that are going around in Canada, in some major cities that we see, which is kind of really weird and paradoxical. We are also going to be joined first with Nasser Najjar, who is a resident here of Vancouver, father and a partner, and has been involved in various human rights activities and social justice events. Formerly, he is the spokesperson and head of communications for International Committee of the Red Cross in Gaza, Palestine. Nasser also served as a production manager for the United Nations Relief Works Agency for Palestine Refugees in the Near East, which is UNRWA, and a researcher for Human Rights Watch, and a freelance news producer and reporter for numerous media outlets around the world, including USA Today, Almonitor, and The Washington Post. Nasser Najjar, thank you so much for taking this time out and joining us today.
Well, thank you. I'm really glad that I'm speaking to you, and it's an honor.
So, Nasser, can we just start by me asking you how you're feeling today?
That's a question that I'm trying to find a good answer for the last 150 days. It's been, as everyone is witnessing, the massacre and the genocide that's taking place right now. It's been rough. It's been hard on everyone who has a heart, who has a mind, who has eyes, just to see how are we coping with this as humans, not as a Palestinian, not as a Gazan, not as someone who has family there. Those are even layers of pain if you're outside. I'm holding up, and in brief, I'm holding up.
Yeah, I mean, it's really unimaginable for those of us who are so removed from the situation to see every day the atrocities that are being committed. And what's worse is how there is seemingly just no way in for helping the people there with the blockades and all the rest of this stuff. So give us a sense of what your family is going through right now, please.
I'll just tell you briefly within the last week. I'm not going to tell you the whole 150 days. But let's start by introducing my family to the listeners. My family contains of my parents, my elderly parents, 75 years old, Muhammad, and my mom, Khadija. Both of them were retired after a long life, and it's not working and trying to raise us as educated members and people who would serve in their community and serve humanity in general. It's not the first time that my parents are displaced. It's the third time in their lives. So within 75 years, it's not fair for someone to be displaced 3 times. The only focus in their life and their only investment was our education. My both older sisters are doctors, Nasser Najjar, she's a doctor who's still in Gaza right now. And my niece, she's in London, UK. Myself, I studied finance and I had a degree in political science. My brother, he is as well is continuing his PhD in administration right now, and my little sister, Razan, who is still in Gaza. She was working as a social worker in an orphanage, and now she used to do graphic design on the side. So the ones who are still in Gaza we lost our home, and we're just, my family is just running or escaping from one claim to be a safe area to another claim to be a safe area. Within the last week, 3 houses where my parents and my little sisters are staying have been targeted. Within the distance of anything between 50 to 100 meters. And they keep on telling me it's just a matter of luck who's receiving the shell. Of course, during the daytime, they just try to scavenge to find whatever is possible. My little sister, because she's the one who's serving my parents, she's running around the city of Rafah to try to find medicine or try to find wood or food for my parents who are elder and who are staying at home. Mm-hmm. So that is part of what they're going through. That's part of what daily life is in Gaza right now. It doesn't matter what's your education, what's your knowledge, what are your dreams, what are your achievements in life. Everyone at this point is just trying to survive. It's survival mode, word for word. Sorry.
No, that's okay, Nasser. It's really difficult and unimaginable, again, for us, let alone asking you to speak about these issues. But how are the people managing to survive in this kind of condition?
Sorry. I would say faith has a very big role in this. The people in Gaza, if they didn't have faith in God, they didn't have faith in being resilient, they didn't have faith in, moving forward, they wouldn't survive a brutal 75 years of occupation. They wouldn't survive, being treated the last 75 years less than other people. Mm. Palestinians did not enjoy basic human rights. I did not enjoy basic human rights till I moved here in Canada. Mm. And yet, still there are things that I'm treated differently, especially when it comes to the reunification program that was launched in January and in December 2023 last year. Mm-hmm. But that's something that we're going to discuss later.
Yes.
When it comes to survival, people in Gaza, they're creative. They try to find ways to come over the brutal blockade that Israelis imposed. You will be surprised, Almonitor, that people in Gaza, many of them, they never traveled. Many of them, they don't know what an airport looks like. They have no clue. They've never met, for example, a Mexican person or an African person or Asian person because they're not allowed to travel. They read, they know that they try to figure out through internet and through books, and with a very high level of education, like 98% of people over there in Gaza, they're educated.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's a very very high rate.
Yes.
Still, it's just the consequences that have been living under that prevent them from seeking more knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I would say again, it's their resilience, it's their faith, it's their belief that one day they will be treated equally like the rest of the world. One day they will gain their freedom, inshallah.
Yeah, Nasser, you talked about how life was over there in Gaza when you were there in Palestine. Can you give us a sense before this new siege? Previously, even we know that it was very difficult and it was draconian. Bombs were not falling this often at this rate and so on. But can you give us an idea of what life is like for Palestinians, say, over the last couple of years? What has life been like?
So, when it comes to life, like even when it comes to basic needs, like I remember my first visit to Gaza was in 1997. 1999. And we stayed there because of my father needed my father's work ended, so he needed to move somewhere, and we had no other chance but going back to Gaza. No other option. Now, going back to Gaza, it means that you have to. Every aspect of your life is controlled by the Israeli authorities, starting from the day that you're born to the day that you die. When you're born, you have 5 years period to provide your first your birth certificate to the Israeli authorities, so you can have a Palestinian ID. And if you don't do so, you go to court and you try to claim that you are a resident or you are a descendant of a Palestinian family, and then the Israeli court will decide whether you are allowed to receive a Palestinian ID or not.
A dominating court decides, basically.
Yes.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Keep in mind that my ID, my Palestinian ID, sorry, my Palestinian ID is written in Hebrew, and it is issued, and the ID in the top of it is issued by Israeli authorities, and it's the same one that's linked to the Palestinian passports. So if like the day that you're born, like when you're born, all of this information goes to them.
Mm-hmm.
All of the medical, any medical notes, any taxes, all of that, your address, your social status,
mm-hmm.
all of that is 100% known by the Israeli authorities
and put into their database.
Yes,
mm-hmm.
yes. So it's a big database for every single Palestinian. Imagine you have 2.5 million Palestinians in Gaza, 3 million Palestinians in the West Bank, 2 million Palestinians within Israel. You have 500,000 Palestinians within Jerusalem, who are not, by the way, considered citizens of the Israeli of the Israeli capital of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
They're considered residents. They're even in a harder place than Gazans because they do have a law. If they leave for 6 months, they lose their residency
mm-hmm.
in Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
So it is apartheid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It is simply and truly, and I'm not me who said it. It's they're like Amnesty International issued it in 2023. 2022, Beit Salem, which is an Israeli human rights organization, issued a report about that in 2021, May 2021, as well as Human Rights Watch in the same month, in the same year, 2021. And so it's like, as I mentioned, every aspect of life is controlled. Now, it's like this includes as well, the food that's imported. It includes the taxation that we pay to the Palestinian authorities. It is cut by the Israelis, and they do have a full control of it. When it comes to our banking system, it comes to... so you walk around in Gaza, and you feel like you don't see, unlike the West Bank, you don't see Israeli, previous, of course, to October 7th, you don't see Israeli appearance that was
in Gaza.
In Gaza. But you feel it. You feel it by the product that is allowed to come in through Israel.
Yes. And can you talk more about that, Nasser, in the sense of what was allowed or disallowed? What were some of the crucial items, for example, that I saw lists, it's not in front of me right now, but it just was really shocking to me to think about what is excluded into the place.
So the Israeli siege started in 2007, and it accordingly, it depended on what was the relation with the authority in Gaza, which was Hamas at the time and until now. So it depends. Like if things were heated up, you will walk into a supermarket and you will find nothing other than maybe wheat and dairy for children and for adults. But there are other times where, yes, you can find some, items, like maybe food items. And again, it depends how high the conflict is going.
Okay.
And how what's the political situation.
Okay.
But there were times that you would walk in and you will barely find, your first needs, especially between 2007 and 2010. And then it started to lose a little bit. At the time, there were times that they would count the calories. Like the human need is 2,000 calories a day. It's divided into 2 million people. This is the amount of food that we're going to allow in.
Wow, right.
It is insane to think that you are dealt with not as a human but as an object. Because again, they do have a full control over their history, civilian history, and all of our IDs. They do benefit from Gaza Strip on different levels. They do cut from our taxations. They do use our water reserves. We are forced to use the Israeli currency, which is the shekel, which makes it even stronger. They are in full control of the products that can come in. So they only import mainly import items from Israel, or that's what they prefer. Like, we don't have a lot of choices when it comes to, again, I'm talking about food items mainly.
Okay.
Because there are a lot of items that were not allowed for different reasons. But now it's just becoming shocking and more shocking. You would walk in the streets and you would still feel the presence of the Israeli authority when it comes, for example, to signs around, or even during the occupation times. So it wasn't easy. You would feel that you're always under surveillance because there was always, drones and balloons just around the strip all the time. and still, that
Nasser,
was kind of the life. At this point, I feel that it's like now after October 7th, especially after like maybe 100 days into the war. When I talk to people, they tell me it feels like the Hunger Games movie.
yeah.
That's the easiest way to describe it to the audience right now. It feels like it's the Hunger Games.
It is really
but
warped.
in real life.
Yeah, Nasser, this is the thing. It is really, really warped. It's really warped because this metaphor that we're talking about, then the film, The Hunger Games, then becomes actually real on the screens that we have now. Like we're seeing it now.
Because people are, they're trapped. There are siege around them. They're dropping food from the air. There are snipers around. And the survivors for the fit. It's like when I'm actually surprised with the U.S. and the other countries when they drop food from a parachute from the air. Because when they drop 38,000 meals, with all due respect, there are 2.5 million people.
Yeah.
The whole idea is just a PR, in my opinion.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think so too, Nasser. It makes sense to me as well that it would be a PR thing because on the one hand, they can demand that those trucks that are lined up at the borders full of food and supplies, whatever, can get in rather than going this route and dropping it. It's such a stupid gesture even. It makes them look so stupid to do it.
And expensive. And in countries like I might understand, country like Jordan doing it. I will pass by with, it's like it's maybe Egypt, although that has a border, but okay. But countries like Canada, countries like the U.S.,
That's right.
you have leverage.
Yeah.
You have leverage.
Yeah.
And use the taxpayers' money better, rather than, making a show for one time, dropping 10,000 or 20,000 items, meals, with a cost of God knows what, because it's like there are planes and there are parachutes and there are coordinates. And it's not efficient for so many reasons. You're dropping some of the things into the sea, and it's just like this fish eats them. And even the ones that are, they don't reach to the most vulnerable. They don't reach to the women or children or, people in wheelchairs or people with disability or, people who are working like the civil defense or doctors, because they're at their work.
Yeah.
So the only people who receive the aid is young, fit men, which they need it. I'm pretty sure they bring it back to their families. But it's not distributed equally. Like someone can have 10 meals or 15 meals, and someone beside them who is in more need, they won't receive any. So it's not efficient. It is costly. It's just pure PR method, in my humble opinion.
That's okay. Nasser, can you talk to us about your perspective around how the Canadian government's response has been over the past few months, and what has been happening recently?
So when it comes to Canada, the Canadian people are amazing. They're warm, they're nice. Believe it or not, every time I walk around and people knew that I'm from Gaza, they either give me a hug, they cry, they shake my hand, they tell me, what can I do for you? Some of them, they buy me a latte. It's like, so it's like there is no way I can be more grateful for the warm people of Canada. When it comes to politicians and when it comes to politics, it is it's different from what's happening on the ground. People on the ground, they are demanding something, and politicians are not listening to them. In the beginning, they were even the opposite, total opposite. It felt to some extent that our elected politicians, they had a different agenda than what the people are asking for. When as far as I remember, in November 2023, 71% were asking for a ceasefire. Mm-hmm. That was November 2023. Mm. It took Canada, like the Canadian government, mm-hmm. way more time, not than before Christmas, before they actually called for a ceasefire with conditions. Mm-hmm. And now it's like, there's nothing left. Like, really, there's no buildings left. Let's look at it even from a strategic point of view. The Israelis were taken to the ICJ, the International Criminal Criminal Court. You're right. ICJ, Court of Justice. Sorry, my apologies.
That's okay. Mm-hmm. We know what you're talking about.
I mean, and there's another case in the ICC, which is led by Chile and Mexico.
Yes.
And so Israel was taken to the ICJ twice in 1 month, and will be taken to ICC within a month or two. Mm-hmm. Why are we getting involved? Like, why are we? At some point, we were defending and supporting an apartheid state. Mm-hmm. An occupational state, and a state that is accused of genocide, which is the crime of crimes among countries. Mm-hmm.
And apartheid before that, It's a deep question. And so what is your perspective around this, please, if you would share, yeah?
And that's not only that, like even the ICJ ruled in 2004 of a land theft when they were building the borders mm-hmm. on over the West Bank. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot can hit Canada's reputation if we supported the state of Israel. I can see that there is a change of narrative. Mm-hmm. It is there. It's not strong enough. We need more. Mm-hmm. Because we don't want to be, as Canadians, to be complicit. And we don't want our government to be complicit with any atrocities that are taking place over there.
And the case is being made now, right? That Canada is completely complicit in this situation. There is a case being made. In fact, I think folks have taken a petition up, meaning they've put together a charge on some of our officials like Trudeau and Melanie Joly and others. Arif Irani, I think.
There was, but then again, it's like when I say change of narrative, like Canada asked for a ceasefire, but now we will going after officials. This is individual, but I would love to see for Canada to step away, if not even oppose the state of Israel.
Right, just to come out clean and say that.
That's the least that they can do. That's the least that they can do.
Yeah.
Because in fact, if justice supposed to be the Palestinians, they wanted to go to the ICJ. And that's the role of the court. If there's a disagreement, let's go and have a hearing from the ICJ. Let's hear from the court. That's what civilization is supposed to be. It's like we reach, as humans, we reach a very long mm-hmm. shot in history mm-hmm. to reach where we are right now. Mm-hmm. We went from, we don't want to be back, we don't want to go back to be cavemen. That's why we have the United Nations. That was That's why we have a court. That's why we have laws. That's why we all have to embed, to follow these rules. And the reason why Israel is doing what it's doing, because they know for sure that there is no consequences. They do have a full impunity for what are they doing. I'll give you one big example.
Sure.
Shireen Abu Akleh, she was I knew her personally. Al Jazeera correspondent. She's a woman. She's a Christian. She works for Al Jazeera International, one of the main news agencies around the world. She was a 50 years old lady, a very professional person. She was shot in Jenin. And the person who shot her was never taken to justice, was never, like a sniper who shot her, was never taken to justice. And to be honest, I think he will never be taken to justice with this current way that Israel is treated. When you have full impunity, you will do whatever you want without being worried of the consequences from what's going to happen. And that's not fair for the rest of the world. That's not fair for Palestinians. That's not fair for humanity. That's not fair for history. And remember that, history is not, people doesn't forget. Especially with all of these videos coming out, all of these reports coming out, with the United Nations and all human rights organizations keep on, bringing out strong language and report after report. It's all written in stone at this point. And our future generations in Canada and everywhere else, they will look back to this and they will say, it's like, how did we allow for this to happen? Just like, we look back to the times of, how did we allow as humans for the Holocaust to happen? How did we allow for slavery to happen? And we will look back to this like our children and grandchildren, and they will look back and it's like, how did we allow for Gaza to be under siege for 17 years? How did we allow the Palestinians not to have a basic human rights? How did we allow for them to suffer this much? How did we allow for Nasser's family to have animal feed and it's like for children to die out of hunger and for people to look for water, drinkable water, and for 2,000-pound bombs to be dropped on houses like it's a Lego. Their history is not gonna be fair to politicians in North America and Europe. I'm sorry, not fair. Like it's gonna.
Yeah,
it's gonna look at them and like, no, you didn't do your job.
Yeah. I hope that this small change of narrative does carry forward and we don't pivot back. I have no idea what it would look like if we don't take the side of justice and take the side of the Palestinians who have been completely mistreated. And it's just it's odd. And to have you also, Nasser, spend your time and sit here and educate us, to tell us about this kind of stuff after 7 decades, right, of this going on, and people knowing about what's happening and countries not doing the right thing, countries just wanting to continue their colonialism or their colonial projects and keep each other afloat. It seems to me that Canada supports Israel because together they are in a settler colonial project. And there is much deeper than that. There is a lot of trade that happens between Canada and Israel. There is a lot of technology transfer, a lot of military technology transfer, policing tactics transfer. When we say that Gaza is an open-air prison, we are really talking about technologies that are being tested. and then being sold to these governments that then continue supporting this state. It's really mind-boggling, Nasser.
Like the least that, honestly, if we were living in a fair world, the least that can happen is for Israel to be under an embargo, sanctions to prevent all of these trades. The least that we're talking about, not because we enjoy people living under embargo, but then because it does change the narrative. It does change the way that countries are treated. Like, look at what happened in South Africa. If it wasn't for the embargo, if it wasn't for the sanctions, people in South Africa would still live under apartheid, which the Palestinians are. The same thing when it happened to several Latin countries when they were in dictatorship, as far as I know in Chile.
Sure. We can also talk about the BDS movement as we are having it here. I mean, it seems to me, and you can tell me, but when I look around, just informally, but when I look around globally, it seems to me that Canada is quite a center for the BDS movement. I mean, to have it in Parliament where Justin Trudeau went ahead and said, the government doesn't support it, tells you that there's something going on.
Well, I mean, it's... the government doesn't support it, but that's what the people want.
Well, that's what I'm saying. When the government comes out to ban something, it tells you that it's very important and the people want it, is what I'm trying to say. I think that Canada is a center. I won't say center, but I think that there is a very strong BDS movement in Canada.
True. And I don't see the BDS, like I can see Trudeau leaving the power, but I don't see BDS the movement is going to be reduced in his time.
Yes, of course.
While being a prime minister.
Of course.
And there is, and we can morally speak about it. If Trudeau and politicians, they were doing, and politicians around the globe, and leaders around the globe, if they put sanctions on Israel, why would they be a PDS movement? If there was no occupation, why would Hamas launch an attack on the 7th of October? Like there, it's just a basic, if the basic human rights are met, there is no need there is no need for non-state actors to move, whether they were a political group or they were non-political group or NGOs, there is no need for the ICRC or for the UN or for Amnesty International or Save the Children to be in Gaza and the West Bank if they were not, under occupation, if they were not under starvation, if they were not, if the basic human rights were met. They won't be there. UNRWA won't be there. There's no, at some point, there was an UNRWA, and a similar body to UNRWA in Korea, South and North Korea, in Vietnam, South and North Vietnam, because the need was there. But now there's a state, and the basic human rights are met. That didn't happen with UNRWA, because all refugees around the world, they go under OCHR, and OCHR is the mother organization that deals with refugees around the world. UNRWA came out of it because the problem wasn't solved. But if the problem is solved, there is no need for UNRWA anymore. And from there, that tells a lot that Israel doesn't want to reach a solution. And there are only three solutions. Two of them are not bloody, and the third is one state solution.
One state solution. Yeah.
And two is two-state solution.
Two states.
And three is one group ends the other. One group is the other. It's like, it's not going to happen. It cannot happen. Not because one group has more, sophisticated army and budget, but also humanity can't handle it. Like you've seen what happened to Gaza. Like it's been, and none of us are normal since then. Like are enjoying this or want for this to happen. Even you speak to people from the opposite side, you will feel that they will come with buts and yes and how, but at some point it does hurt. It does hurt to see a woman who cannot feed her children. It does hurt for a child to bury his parents and be orphaned for the rest of his life. I've seen this photo of a child while scrolling my phone. He lost his limbs, both of his legs. And then he was telling the doctor, will they grow up again? And guess what? It just happened by coincidence that the person who was holding the phone beside him was his father, who happened to be my friend. So I just couldn't handle it. It's like, and I'm far away in a safe place. So imagine that father, how he's going to feel, how this child is going to live for the rest of his life. So I don't think that Israel can wipe out the Palestinians. It's impossible. And by going this way, in this route, it will not be a good. It won't bring any good for either or. It's like, so all what we can call for right now is a ceasefire. I am happy that Israel was taken to the ICJ. I am happy and glad that it was taken to ICC. I know that there's a pressure on these courts, but it's one step in the right direction for humanity. It's one step for the global South to stand up and say, yes, we want a solution for this injustice that's happening in Palestine.
Yeah, well, I mean, we certainly are seeing more and more calls for ceasefire. As you're saying, we're also hearing people saying that, isn't it good it's coincidenting with Ramadan, we can have a break. Others are saying that, yeah, it's just a strategic break. Nobody's asking seriously for a permanent ceasefire. A ceasefire is really something that is a trick in some ways. But I would take whatever I can get, Nasser, I guess. If my family was there like yours are, I would just want the bombs to stop as quickly as possible and the food to get in, and just be bewildered as to why Canada continues to take the stance that it does in supporting Israel. Can you talk to us a little bit about how the Canadian government, what was the trajectory that you saw with the Canadian government in terms of allowing or pressuring Israel or granting visas or extending the parameters for those that can come and so on and so forth? I mean, recently we saw that Canada moved very, very quickly when it came to Ukraine. We have now another example that's been taking a long, long time. Can you give us a sense of the development on this issue since?
So, Canada, after lobbying and reaching out to a lot of politicians, as a Gazan Canadian community, reach out to a lot of MPs and a lot of politicians, and we requested to be treated as equal as our Ukrainian Canadian brothers here, where they were justly provided a program for them to ask for a safe place and
Yes.
safe passage to live and work. And there's nothing wrong. We were happy to have them here.
Of course.
To stay away from war and to build up their lives. Our concern was, why are we treated differently?
Yes.
Why there's a cap? Why do we have the 1,000 people cap? And plus our applications are taking way longer time. That's something that's frustrating us. Of course, we understand that Minister Mark Miller, he came out several times and he mentioned it's not a hard cap. That's when it comes to the cap. And he mentioned that on 2 occasions. The first one, that he is frustrated personally by people are not moving through the border from the Rafah side from the Palestinian side, the Egyptian side.
That is, they're not allowed to be moved.
Exactly. And but of course, he used the diplomatic language.
Sure.
And the second time that he mentioned that we all fail Gazans. So I do respect his work, but we, as a Canadian government, we do have leverage. We do have a say. We at some point, the Canadian government provided Israel with diplomatic support. It did provide Israel with a lot of its needs, whether it's on the civilian or military side. So they do have the leverage to tell them, let these people leave. Let them be united with their families. They suffered enough. We suffered enough. I know you think it's normal for me to go to work and to smile and to deal with coworkers and to deal with people around me and to take care of my baby and to and to go on with my life normally, while knowing that my sister today she sent me a recording. She's like, I just wish the bomb hit me and I'm done. I cannot take this anymore. So if we need for this to happen, all what we need is for their names to be on the border so they can cross.
And you know what is interesting is that, of course, the Israeli government would know where folks are located. I mean, they have such sophisticated methods and cameras and drones and so on and so forth. And people would self-identify themselves if they were only able to. In the case of, Canadians who want to leave. We also saw the difference, I guess, in the beginning when there were Jewish Canadians who also wanted to leave.
I mean, in the very end, they are Canadians. So it's the matter of the
equality,
different treatment.
Yes.
But they are Canadians. They are welcome to their country. But we are just feeling that we're not treated as equals. All what we're asking for, if we are, I'll tell you on my end at least. I've been here for 7 years now. I do have a son. I applied for the reserves. I worked for the Canadian Red Cross. I volunteered in shelters. I do have a son who will grow here and he will call this place home. And I do have at least as much right as a foreign individual, like from Ukraine or Israel, when they request for a safe place. At least. So I'm not asking to be treated more than anyone else. I'm just asking to be treated equally. And up to this moment, we are not.
Yeah.
So it is devastating. We are still using political language. We are still going through the right channel, and we will always do that because we are a law-abiding community. But it does hurt. It does hurt. There's a scar. There's pain. And we don't hear people comforting us. And when I mean people, I mean politicians. I don't mean the wonderful people of Vancouver.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Point taken. It is. I cannot imagine actually when I even when I try to how Palestinians survive their lives day to day, because of course over the last 5-6 months we've seen the tension, but this tension has always been there. There's always been something going on. Life has always been difficult. To say resilience is almost like saying tokenism. I mean, this stuff just should not be happening around now. It just should be so clear. And it just baffles me that it still goes on. I know that people get it and they do what they can. Definitely Canadians and others are wanting to help, and there are avenues that people can help. And I know that you also have a FundMe page. Would you like to share a little bit about that with us?
So, as I mentioned, or as I mentioned before, I'm a proud Palestinian. I was always, and I will be. And I put my life in risk for saving people, innocent people in Palestine and other places in the world. Now my family is going through famine. They're going through, a genocide. They're going through lack of medication. My father is in a very bad shape. And I'm worried that if the program isn't going to move forward, I will try to pay their way out, which will cost a fortune. It just all happened when I became a new father. I've been their only supporter for the last more than 5 months now. Mm-hmm. Not only my family, but other people in Gaza, they reach out to me.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
So now this is really difficult anymore.
Yeah.
I'll appreciate a little bit of support, because I'm tired both financially and mentally at this point.
Absolutely. And I know that there are people who are looking to help. There are people that are looking for avenues to make a difference in a small way or in any way that they can. And this is an opportunity where they can help. Nasser, it is difficult, but I encouraged you to bring it up and discuss it, because these are very, very important ways that communities come together, that people come together and help each other out. When we know that our politicians aren't working, we know that our public institutions aren't working. There's not pressure really being put on. People are coming out on the streets, and there is a lot of support. People are boycotting. There is a lot of support, and this is another way that people can also support.
I really appreciate that. It's a mix of things. Like, for example, the war prices are not the same, because the demand is more and the supply is less. Like, I'll give you an example. A sack of wheat, especially in the north right now, it's $1,000 US.
Yes, we saw that. Yes, but that, how much?
$1,000 US. Wow. A sack of wheat,
wow.
25 kilos.
Yeah.
Because as you saw, people do die, like literally.
Yes.
To bring in a sack of wheat. So it is a price of. It might be the price of your life for that sack of wheat. And of course, people like my parents, they cannot even walk. Not to mention, it's like to go in to try to find a way and then grab that and run away from the bullets while they're running.
Yeah.
So it's impossible for them. So that's why cover a lot of their expenses, all of their expenses, in fact.
Nasser Najjar, this is part of what we do here at CoopRadio is support communities in any ways that we can, and so where can listeners go to your fund page if they're looking for you? They go to GoFundMe, and then where do they go?
So my page, it's under Nasser Najjar.
Okay, Nasser Najjar.
Yes.
Okay.
And it goes with Help Me Save My Family.
Yeah, where you can get more information about Nasser and his family. Nasser, we're coming up to the end of our conversation due to time, unfortunately. But we did discuss earlier the possibility of speaking with you again as we go down the road and unpacking these issues, multiple issues, and talking about where we're at with them. So we look forward to that with you. If you have time and energy, we can just do it as we go.
Sure, absolutely. I'm really. It was a wonderful discussion, and I'm looking forward to have even more discussions with you. It feels nice to be heard. It feels nice to be heard.
You know, it's our pleasure, and it's we really mean it when we say that. Thank you, because we know that this is an extremely difficult conversation for you to have. So we appreciate the time that you took and filling us in and giving us some details. And so once again, I just wanted to spell out your name, Nasser Najjar. Folks can look that up. Nasser, take care. All the best, and we hope to catch up with you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Take care.
All right. Take care. Okay, folks, if you didn't know it, you are still listening to us here at 100.5 FM and also streaming at www.coopradio.org. And what we're going to do is take a quick break, and then we are going to come back and have a conversation with Reem and David about illegal land sales. So stay tuned while we get that set up.
On Gaza, and I was the media spokesperson for the coalition, doing a lot of the organizing, and we had stayed up to about 6 o'clock in the morning perfecting every soundbite. And by the end, if you're Palestinian, you know most Palestinians get tired and start pronouncing our P's as B's, so we become Palestinians by the end of the day. So I was practicing my P's all night, and the next morning one of the journalists asked me, "Don't you think it would all be fine if you just stopped teaching your children to hate?" I did not insult the person. I was very polite. But I wrote this poem as a response to these types of questions we Palestinians always get. Today, my body was a TV'd massacre. Today, my body was a TV'd massacre that had to fit into sound bites and word limits. Today, my body was a TV'd massacre that had to fit into sound bites and word limits, filled enough with statistics to counter measured response. And I perfected my English and I learned my UN resolutions. But still, he asked me, "Ms. Ziyada, don't you think everything would be resolved if you would just stop teaching so much hatred to your children?" Pause. I look inside of me for strength to be patient, but patience is not at the tip of my tongue as the bombs drop over Gaza. Patience has just escaped me. Pause. Smile. We teach life, sir. Rafif, remember to smile. Pause. We teach life, sir. We Palestinians teach life after they have occupied the last sky. We teach life after they have built their settlements and apartheid walls. After the last skies, we teach life, sir. But today, my body was a TV'd massacre made to fit into sound bites and word limits. And just give us a story, a human story. You see, this is not political. We just want to tell people about you and your people. So give us a human story. Don't mention that word apartheid and occupation. This is not political. You have to help me as a journalist to help you tell your story, which is not a political story. Today, my body was a TV'd massacre. How about you give us a story of a woman in Gaza who needs medication? How about you? Do you have enough bone-broken limbs to cover the sun? Hand me over your dead and give me the list of their names in 1,200 word limits. Today, my body was a TV'd massacre made to fit into sound bites and word limits and move those that are desensitized to terrorist blood. But they felt sorry. They felt sorry for the cattle over Gaza. So I give them UN resolutions and statistics, and we condemn and we deplore and we reject, and these are not two equal sides, occupier and occupied, and 100 dead, 200 dead, and 1,000 dead. And between that war crime and massacre, I vent out words and smile, not exotic, smile, not terrorist. And I recount 100 dead, 200 dead, 1,000 dead. Is anyone out there? Will anyone listen? I wish I could wail over their bodies. I wish I could just run barefoot in every refugee camp and hold every child, cover their ears so they wouldn't have to hear the sound of bombing for the rest of their life the way I do. Today, my body was a TV'd massacre, and let me just tell you, there is nothing your UN resolutions have ever done about this. And no soundbite I come up with, no matter how good my English gets, no soundbite will bring them back to life. No soundbite will fix this. We teach life, sir. We teach life, sir. We Palestinians wake up every morning to teach the rest of the world life, sir.